And this booklet of sayings is a collection, if you wish, of the Kadampa and the words of transmission advice that came down through Talopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, and many great masters of these lineages. And Gampopa wonderfully put them all together and put them in order. So it's wonderful. So let's begin. First of all, the person who wishes to attain liberation and the omniscient state of Buddhahood should remember the 10 kinds of waste. So right there at the beginning, you see there's a reference to attaining liberation, which can be self-liberation, liberation for all sentient beings, and the wish to attain full, complete awakening, which is Buddhahood. It's wonderful to pause and sometimes reflect where one's at, whether we wish for our liberation, our freedom, or we actually wish for such a capacity that would be for the liberation of all kinds of beings, and not just our liberation. So 10 kinds of waste. Or, as some translations put it, 10 causes of regret. This perfect human body, so difficult to find, is wasted by engaging in unvirtuous evil or unwholesome, seriously unwholesome activities, deeds. So again, we start that way with the 4 thoughts that turn the mind from samsara, and realizing how these, and it's a study, it's really a study and an important practice, is you see it starts with cause and effect. And I'm sure that those beings out there, and the beings in this room too, few of you engage in seriously what's called papa in Pali, bad things. You know? Monstrous things, very difficult things to undo. But all of us in our lives engage or get engaged with people and get caught up in things that are patterns or engagements of unwholesome behavior, maybe not seriously, but later on, if we really analyze them, we look at them, we start to realize that they set up patterns by which they bind us to things that harm, not just physically, but mentally a harm. This is part of being born in samsara. So unless you're born as a fully awakened being, you are going to, in this lifetime, going to heap up patterns of cause-effect, habit patterns that are going to afflict the mind, and of course the mind is connected to the body and in interdependence with physical effects and so on, like viruses and bacterial infections and all kinds of genetic load of karma, is going to set up patterns which are going to be painful as well as pleasurable too. So it's really important, I think I've repeated this hundreds and hundreds of times, and I also work on this too. It's very important to be mindful, attentive through the day, to keep one's precepts, study the precepts, and keep to a very, very high ethical standard. Not rule-bound, but understanding the heart of both the lay precepts, the monastic precepts, and if one holds tantric precepts, to really understand them. So it's not just bad things. It's things that society supports and things that we don't even know that we're doing that are actually creating harm, repetitive harm in ourselves and other beings that we need to study and understand so that we can correct them and change them. Very important. This perfect human body, that means a vessel that can become liberated with the freedoms and riches so hard to obtain, is wasted by dying an ordinary, unspiritual person. These words of advice from Gampopa are don't soften anything. They go right to the heart of the matter. He's extremely direct. So we have an opportunity of having a vessel, having a body that even if it is ill from time to time, or quite often, or not, is an amazing construction of energies and possibilities that allows, because we contain all the 6 realms within this experience, allows us to attain liberation and freedom and Buddhahood quite quickly. So this is what's meant. It's a very precious opportunity to awaken speedily, hear the Dharma, practice the Dharma, and most of us have every means except for mentally what's in the way. Most of us have every means of doing deep work in this lifetime. And what is in the way is mental construct. Me too. I will make all kinds of logical, reasonable excuses why I'm not doing more work, or I'm not studying more, or I'm not practicing more. You know? So he's saying, don't die an unspiritual person, ordinary unspiritual person full of afflictive states. Use the opportunity to really, really wake up. And what a gift to all sentient beings. This fleeting human life, already short in this dark age, in this Kali Yuga, is wasted when spent on pointless activities. So there you go. So when I've used this, I have it like a checklist. And I find this such a precious text, because when people ask me, how do I know how I'm doing? How do I know if I'm making spiritual progress? This book, and many others like it, you can use like a checklist. Now don't kill yourself because you're not perfect. Okay? But you can use it like a checklist and say, today or yesterday or this week, have I been doing things? Have I been wasting time on pointless activities that just don't go anywhere? Can I do something about it? What are those pointless activities? Is this a waste? Now that doesn't mean now that you get rid of your artwork, that you get rid of your passion. It doesn't mean that you now don't go to the garden because it's not spiritual or this or that. But what it means is wasting time on things that don't go anywhere. And not just things so-called that are called spiritual, but not using every activity in the day, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's shopping, whatever you're doing, cooking, as an awakening, liberating act of bodhicitta. This is the key. And you can use this, make a checklist here. Go, okay, I'm doing better on that one. Your mind, what a beautiful pith instruction. Your mind, whose unconstructed nature is Dharmakaya, is wasted by sinking into the muddy swamp of samsaric delusion. Is that pointed or what? So this instruction, this wonderful message is always stop and return to the view. Instead of engaging and entertaining delusion emotional confusion, getting caught up in stories, getting caught up in misery and grief and worry and agitation. Enough. Stop, return to the view. Buddha nature, emptiness, vast compassion, unconstructed, unhindered mind. Return to that. And not get lost in the, as he puts it here, the swamp of samsaric delusion. And that's also why we need many practice sessions during the day, even if you're at work. As I've recommended many times, many pauses in the day where you stop, even for 2 or 3 minutes, and recollect the view. Pick up the breath. Do something that refreshes the mind and takes one out of the repetitive mental patterns, the worrywart, the fretting, catching someone's viral stories, getting muddied in someone's viral machinations or stories, lifting oneself out of that and reflecting on the view, and especially bodhicitta. Vast, unhindered compassion and relative compassion. Yeah, great. The Sublime Master, one's guru or lama, one's spiritual teacher who leads you on to the path, is wasted when you disassociate from him or her, of course, before attaining enlightenment. So they mean here maybe not full complete enlightenment. He means not full, but definitive, real definitive stability in the awakened mind. Otherwise, there are still instructions and support, and you see even great masters, so-called great masters, like the Dalai Lama, like Anto Rinpoche, Namjo Rinpoche too, greatly attained beings who, when they met beings that they had a connection with, or they could receive instructions, further instructions, empowerments, transmissions, they did so. So, marvelous examples. Yeah, I never forget that beautiful statement by when the Dalai Lama was asked, why do you study? You're the Dalai Lama. Why do you go and you study and receive transmissions from His Eminence or His Holiness, Khyentse Rinpoche, great Nyingma master? He says, oh my gosh, who wouldn't? So, continuing to receive instructions, continuing to receive transmissions, and training and learning under people that have really great experience, and you have a heart connection with. Wow, it's really something. Your vows and samayas, the ship to reach liberation, are wasted when broken through frivolous, disturbing emotions. So this key, again and again, I so often watch people do themselves in, almost like self-immolation, through disturbing emotions. And in fact, when one starts to entertain and drift into the fixity or apparent solidity of emotional states for anything but some brief moments, and you fall into actually believing them and entertaining them, is what's meant by frivolous, disturbing emotions. We actually break our precepts and our tantric commitments. So it's really essential. It doesn't mean that emotions are bad or we should never have emotions. It's actually believing in the reality that we should be working them all out, and we should be spending a lot of time with them, and especially frivolous time. So this is very important. So if you don't know the precepts, study the precepts with whatever level of precepts you've received and your bodhisattva commitments, and especially many of you have received tantric commitments. Really study those tantric commitments. They're extraordinary and high, and keep coming back to them and stopping and going, enough. Enough. So when it says frivolous, it means, I like the word entertainment. It means going too far with emotions. It means going too far with stories, creations, fabrications, and they now take on a life of their own. It doesn't mean, I'll never engage, I'll be a brass Buddha. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean not being passionate about things. It means sinking into really believing it's a reality that you need to engage with and go over and over and over again as if you're going to solve it through that means. Page 17, which may be a different page, probably a different page for you, but in this text here, the experience and realization discovered within yourself through the assistance of a master are wasted when allowed to dissipate in the jungle of materialistic activities. So it says here, it's really saying, when you make genuine discovery of mind's nature, when you make genuine discovery at whatever level, stay to that genuine experience. And sometimes I have to remind some of you that you've had a genuine experience, and not to dissipate it in it says materialistic activities. Don't dissipate it in all kinds of activities that will now not give you the opportunity to work on that experience and realization. This is beautiful too, through the assistance of a master. The real role, really to work with a teacher that you have a heart connection with, is, as it says in the text, Mahamudra text, working together to bring out realization. This is lovely. Yeah. The profound oral instructions of the siddhas, the great attained masters, are wasted when bartered like merchandise to ordinary unworthy people. Very strong statement. We think everybody's worthy. Actually, everybody's worthy, but not necessarily so. Everybody's worthy of compassion and instructions of liberation, but there's always a precept that is one, not to sell precious Dharma teachings like merchandise. And you can see right here at his time the beginning of that, maybe even earlier, where people would bring back transmissions or teachings that they received from India or in Tibet or from other teachers, and they would now make it a business proposition that if I teach this, I will receive X number of strands of gold or whatever. And this is what he's referring to. And it's referred to in many texts over the centuries in Tibet as a no-no, which people did, is to sell empowerments and sell transmissions and sell oral instructions as if it's merchandise, if it's a product. And unworthy people are people that will take those instructions and either throw them back in your faith as unworthy or unworthwhile, not use them, not hear them, and you can spend, I think as some of you have discovered, I suspect that some of you who've taught the Dharma or have engaged in teaching the Dharma meditation have discovered how much time and energy can be dissipated and used up in teaching certain instructions to those who don't want to hear it, just will not engage. So I give that to you also from his advice. Be careful of wasting one's precious life energies trying to teach to those that don't necessarily have the training to understand that particular level of transmission or teaching. It sounds harsh, but actually it's a worthwhile instruction. We can always teach Dharma, it just depends on what we're teaching. All sentient beings, your own kind parents, are wasted when out of hatred you abandon and forsake them. That doesn't mean you have to engage with a rattlesnake. It doesn't mean that you have to engage with a poisonous pit viper in the same room. But you don't have to abandon beings out of hatred. It's the worst thing you can do. You can still love beings, you can still do a lot for beings, but you don't always have to be engaging, as it says here later, with beings that are poisonous. So do not abandon beings out of hatred. You may leave beings out of skill, but don't abandon them out of hatred. Your youth, when your body, speech, and mind are fresh and vigorous, is wasted when spent on ordinary indifference, or as some texts say, going to this place and this place out of pursuit of pleasure or new discoveries that actually aren't liberating. So, or, as it says in some of the commentaries, ordinary difference is just engaging in pleasure. Just this pleasure, that pleasure, this pleasure, that pleasure, and stoking up more pleasures, or not caring about any spiritual pursuits whatsoever, and that's what that refers to. So when our minds are fresh, which can be 60, 70, 80, 90, when our minds are still fresh, even if our bodies aren't, and especially when our bodies are fresh, and our speech is still working, use it for liberation. These are the 10 kinds of waste.